Hi guys, welcome to House 317. I'm your host Rodney, joined by permanent roommates Josh, Brandon, here to discuss episode finale for Loki, episode 6. Guys, what just happened?
A lot just happened, but yeah.
Yeah. What does that do? Did that blow your mind? That just happened.
That was it.
Yeah.
That was it.
Reaction's over.
Yeah,
We're
reaction's
done.
over.
Yeah,
We're done.
we're done.
Call it quits. We're
No,
out.
like this. Anything's possible now.
Yeah.
It really is. It
Anything's
opens it
possible.
up for anything. Anything they want to do, they can do.
Which is
Multiverse official.
insane to think about. Like,
Do you realize what you've done?
we go back to just Iron Man or just like Spider-Man movies, to get to this point now where like, who knows what we're gonna see is just
It sets
amazing.
up secret invasion. Perfect.
I hope so.
It sets it up.
All right, so about the episode.
So yeah, about
Yes,
the episode.
yes.
So
Check
initial
out
reactions
cobwebs.
overall. So initial reactions, obviously our first reaction as we're loading in. But the most interesting piece to me was their version of Kang. So talk to me a little bit about what you guys think that is, how he unpacked it, because this was a heavy like unpacking what he's thinking kind of episode.
Well, can we first talk about?
She was so crazy
Right?
looking.
Marvel coming in with the good jump scare. Well done.
For the
Well
record,
done.
I called it that when they walked in, they were going to see Miss Minutes. Called it.
That you did.
So,
Good
but
for you.
the way she looked was a little
She was a
scary.
little deeper.
She was a little scary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
more threatening.
Oh, definitely.
There's something else going on there. We'll likely see more of that in season 2 because she was feeding also Ravana not necessarily what she asked for, but what
Yeah,
she
that's-
wanted her to see.
Right.
And so there's something going on there that we just can't put our finger on yet. We said that last episode too.
Well, and
But,
I think I have a little solve for that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wait for
we'll
theories.
save
Save it for theories.
I think we were all right, along with pretty much everybody, that Kang was going to show up somehow.
Mm-hmm.
I think we were all in agreement that Kang was going to be a last second
Yeah,
type of thing,
we were.
post credit type of thing. I was pleasantly surprised that Kang was
They
straight
let
up.
it. They let it all hang out. Like he was out
Right.
there.
I think it was phenomenal. His very kind of threatening, but in a way of like he reminded me of Loki a little bit, like just mischievous.
Right.
The way it was.
It was just like, what was a lie? What was truth? What were the partial truths?
Yeah.
There was a lot of that being played out.
Yeah.
Not that it was very well balanced. And it really made Loki and Sylvie's decision really interesting.
Well, not it made Loki's decision interesting.
Right.
Sylvie
We
was
knew
never,
what she was doing.
She was never wavering
No.
from.
No.
her vision.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But it was still interesting to kind of him set that up to kind of be like, all right, there's 2 options for you.
Yeah.
Which one do you want? Which one are you going to take?
Mm.
And
That to me was an interesting series of scenes in that Kang, Immortus, whatever you want to call them, he's a version of Kang. This one's a more pacifist version of him, maybe.
yeah,
The
this
good
is
Huh?
he is
The
one
good-
of the
The
good ones.
good one, yeah, the gray one. We'll
'Cause-
call him the gray one.
Finally!
He was the best of them, maybe, and that's where he understood as long as he maintained this timeline, none of the bad ones
Yeah,
could exist.
I thought it was. I loved when he it was a kind of a jab at both of them.
Grow up! Grow up, Sylvie! Murderer! Hypocrite! We're all villains here.
And you forget that. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've come so far into this series of like falling in love with Loki and falling in love with Sylvie that you forget that like what they've done and kind of they still have those characteristics, even though like Loki is turning over a new leaf,
Right.
Maybe.
And the fact that he even presents it in the sense of, it's just like, if I'm the good one, I'm telling you there's worse. It's just like, just gotta take that in a little bit too.
I mean,
It's
do
just-
we think he was being serious when he was offering like them the job of?
I think so.
I think so.
I think
You don't
so.
think so?
I don't.
Well,
He was playing his role so well of just being like, you don't know what is the truth.
Mhm.
Like
Well, you gotta
It's just
think,
weird.
he's sitting there and he's just like, he says he's lived so many different lives.
Yeah, 31st century.
Yeah.
Million miles over.
Yeah, which there's a theory for that, but I'll leave that at the end. So he's had more than enough time to just kind of be like, all right, I'm kind of bored now. I'm kind of done.
Yeah.
This is my legacy. I want it to keep going. There's an opportunity for that to happen. And then he can go and live whatever life he wants to live. Now the question is, how does that work and maintain the timeline if he is the single entity that was keeping that together?
Yeah.
Because it's just like, just because he dies, all of a sudden the multiverse breaks loose. Well, like, you know, like how does that work if he was to
It
transition?
had to be closer, like technology wise. He was managing the technology that was keeping everything in place
Yeah.
and sending everybody off.
Do we know, are we assuming that the branches were starting to form? Like, while he was still alive, they were already starting.
Yeah, they
Because
were.
remember,
Was
he
that because-
didn't know what was going to happen next. Remember, he mentions
That's right. That's
you
right.
passed the threshold. He had his script
Which is
up to a point. Well, because remember, he's at the end of time. So
I know,
time
but
is still growing,
Yeah.
still moving. So, but he's writing it.
And
He only wrote it to a point to make a point.
And he was more forthcoming after that happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's good.
To me, there was truth after that happened, right?
Yeah.
He was coy prior to
And he
when
said
he
that
knew
too. He's like,
everything
hey.
that was about to happen. But as soon as they crossed that threshold, I feel like truth is what he was being candid. He was being truthful in those moments. And that's, I think, and I may be wrong, but I think he offered them the position after they crossed the threshold. And so to me, that would be a true piece because he gave them the option at that point.
Yeah.
Which, like Josh said, she was never wavering from killing him.
No.
Her purpose, goal, no matter what he said, was to kill him.
No matter what Loki said either.
Oh, well, and it was interesting to me. My favorite line was where they came to the impasse.
Because you can't trust. And I can't be trusted.
That was like.
I mean, the fight scene was great.
The fight scene was great, but that
what
was
a
what
moment
defined them.
that
Yeah,
was.
because
Yeah.
that's how they defined themselves. I can't trust, and you
You can't
You
trust.
can't trust.
you
and
can't trust,
be
and I
trusted.
can't be trusted. Like that was a realization of where they kind of came to grips with their identity and how they knew that even though they have this thing for one another, they were at an impasse and they knew they weren't going to be able to.
And they did have a
overcome.
thing.
And okay, so how much is that Sylvie? Well, I'm assuming that like that was legit feelings with the kiss.
Oh, for
Probably
sure.
a 60-40 on using it as a distraction.
Right.
Oh yeah,
Maybe
she
a
saw the
70-30.
play.
70 distraction,
She
30.
knew, she saw the play and was like, all right.
Yeah, just man, heartbreaking.
I know.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
fully expected Loki to betray her
No, I
in
did
some
not.
fashion.
I was like, so when
But
there was
not-
something
not on
forming
the-
behind him, I'm like, oh god, he's about to die. Like
Yeah.
that's what I was assuming. And then obviously she pushes him through, but I never thought that he was turning. Like
Yeah.
the speech he gave felt real. Felt so far removed from what we know
Well,
of Loki.
let me rephrase that. Not so much that he would betray her, but he would have to take a position, that of which would have technically
Well,
betrayed her.
and
So
Kang
it's
kind of
very
set them
similar
up
to
for
what
that.
Sylvie did to him.
Yeah.
The opposite
Yeah.
is kind of what I saw there.
And Kang set it up, right? He
Mhm.
set it up because he said, interesting you would use the word manipulation.
Mhm.
Because it kind of it opened up the door for Sylvie to kind of think that really that was his play all along, is for him to reach a throne, him to be the conqueror, whatever it was.
And he
And
was
so-
just chilling in the background during the kiss, like
Yeah.
Jeez, like I'm going
I
to
know. I was
this play
waiting for
out.
him to like say something
Ruin it.
in the moment. Yeah, right. It
but
was
that's
just-
okay, she ruined it by pushing. But,
Yeah.
man, just
Mm.
and then that just silent moment where it felt like Loki was staring straight into the camera on that pan in.
Just taking
before
it
he
in,
takes
just
off.
like, dang.
Yeah, like not even dang, just like it's that.
What, like, was he getting over the kiss, or was he getting over the fact that he just got tossed?
No, it's more of like what Lady Sif told him and what others have said. Like
You
you're
always-
destined to be alone, and I think it was just
But that's for Loki as a whole, because how I saw that scene was I saw both of them, right?
Mm.
So he's looking towards the camera, and Sylvie, Lady Loki is on the floor,
Sylvie,
and after she kills Kang, she's on the floor
They're both
looking
alone.
down. They're both alone.
And she realizes what she did.
What she's
and
done.
regrets.
Right.
Obviously, you don't see her face. There's no dialogue, but I think that was instant.
Well, and is there purpose in that? He's looking at the camera and she's looking away. They made two different choices that are ultimately going to lead them in two different directions.
Yeah.
And those two angles or those two shots of them is him looking at us and her looking away. Like when they broke those two shots, I'm like, that to me was they parted ways.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it was just really, that whole episode was just so well done. I think what we get with Kang later is just a complete change in that character.
Oh, yeah.
Like even voice, mechanics.
That's
I
gonna
don't-
Be, that's gonna be interesting.
So he sets it up. He's gonna obviously he says he'll see us soon. So we know he's coming back. Obviously he'll be back in Quantumania, 2023. Come on, guys.
Before that.
Yeah, he's gonna have to.
Needs to come.
We also know that Loki season 2 is gonna start production right there at 2022, start of 2022, and
So
with
we're
how
probably looking
quickly.
like late 2020.
Late 2022 release, which would make sense given the
The
current
lead up.
timelines and
Yeah.
everything there in place. I also believe that Kang, because again, he's going to take kind of that Thanos role now. He's going to pop up in different areas, so I could very well see him, now that we've been introduced to him that way, we get to see different versions of him.
That's what
I don't think
there's
it's
so
one.
many variants.
It's
of
just
him.
like we're going to see the different
Yeah.
variants. Maybe we see some of them or one of them in multiverse. Maybe we see that in Spider-Man. There's
think-
tons of places for that to happen.
I think he
that
has a-
makes it exciting.
better chance of showing up in some capacity during multiverse.
Right.
Doctor Strange. I can see there being like mention of him in Spider-Man because obviously we're heading towards a multiverse in Spider-Man, whether that's just the villains or Spider-Man in general. But I think he makes an appearance in Doctor Strange. I just don't see how this is all we get from him until season 2. And then Quantum Play, that's a long stretch.
Well, it sets
Yeah.
up the councils, right? So the council
Yeah.
of Richards and the council
Yeah.
of Kangs.
Kangs.
Oh, it's going to be something. All right, we're getting a little too deep into theories.
Right.
Favorite clips, not clips,
Well,
but favorite scenes.
Before we go into that, I want to hit on one note.
Yes, sir.
And that is Renslayer. So,
Yeah,
you see,
that's
we get her for two good scenes here. Obviously she's somewhat saddened and remorseful, I believe, for what she did to Mobius, because you see her looking at the stain on the table.
Yeah.
And so I think there's that little bit of like, he really was a friend. But then he shows up, she's packing. We get that moment with Miss Minutes where she has obviously she has an agenda.
Yeah.
Has given Renslayer one, which is interesting, and she's off to look for free will.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. So I think that's going to play a role. But shortly after, in the middle of the episode, we see, is it Agent 51?
B-50.
B-50.
B-15.
B-15, yeah. So there's a moment there where you see, who is it? Renslayer again. But it's the
2018. Yeah.
But it's the teacher version, which is again, that's a huge comic callback, because Kang was like I think he was like a kid in her class, and he.
Oh, you stretching deep for
Buddy.
for that knowledge, man.
Yeah, buddy. Anyway, so I think that's a callback to a start of their relationship, and I think we'll see that bloom. I don't think they have one yet, but I think she has an agenda. We'll get the new Kang, Kang, one of the Kang versions or variants, and they'll meet up, and then they'll have their.
Yeah. I mean, and what she defines as free will is the person in charge. So really, she's just out to find the person in charge.
And she'll find Kang and be
she's
like,
gonna find
okay.
Kang.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure we talked about that, because that's
Yeah,
gonna be.
yeah. I mean, her character is definitely going to align with Kang in some way, shape, or form, and they're going to be in cahoots moving forward. And I don't know where the TVA falls in all of that. Like, who's in charge now? B-15, Mobius, who's in charge? Because she's gone.
No. Like that version of.
Yeah,
Renslayer
this is a
gone.
different. This is a different TVA now.
Okay.
That's
And
true.
So we're going into that.
Yeah, let's
That
talk about
scene-
that whole thing.
and you were talking about favorite scenes. That's okay. So when the camera cuts to Loki after he's been pushed away and Sylvie's killed Kang, there's that slow pan towards him, and then he gets up and starts running. Like that whole stretch, that whole scene where he gets to Mobius and B-15. That's my favorite scene. Like it was like the score in it. Like it was just tense, and then you get the reveal that like
They have no idea who he
are
is.
you?
Which, and the fact that all the timelines are still happening, they acknowledge that.
Yep.
They have a different mentality on the level of control there. They obviously know somebody who is in charge and
They
wants them
obviously
to do
get
a
the
certain
statue.
thing. Yeah, the statue there of just the one, not the three. So all that's taking place, and then all of a sudden it's just like, oh, he doesn't know who he is anymore. So now Loki has not only been betrayed by Sylvie, but now he doesn't have that same connection with
He's
Mobius.
truly alone.
Alone. Yeah.
Like
alone.
alone.
It goes back to alone.
Just,
I don't know,
So-
but it was cool. I was just gonna say the shot with B-15 and Mobius when they were looking at the multiple branches, like a good indication with like Mobius was like loose tied, kind of disheveled, but when you saw him in that not the very next scene, but the next scene with him at B-15, like clean cut, like tie was straight.
Well, they played with us. That
Yeah.
was definitely just a play.
Oh yeah.
Because that previous scene was in that timeline
Yeah.
where they were looking at what was happening in that moment, and then that next one is that completely separate reality. And so, and just thinking about time works different at the TVA, and how that played a role. His Kang, or whichever one you want to play him as, his death immediately changed it.
Yeah.
That's weird. That's
Like,
weird.
This version of Kang's TVA, and the other one was that version's like.
It's a, well, again, like he
You said it,
plays
the
two
score.
roles.
The score made that feel
Oh, man.
more ominous.
Yeah.
And like dictator-ish.
Oh
kind
yeah,
of situation.
yeah. There's definitely a shift there.
I love the music.
So we're definitely gonna be. I'm assuming in season 2 we're gonna be getting 2 separate scenes or episodes of 2 different realities.
Maybe.
I'm assuming because
They have
I
to
wanna
follow-
It's
Yes.
the question of how many different TVAs are there now? Is there one for each of the
I think we're only gonna get
timelines, or is there just one?
2. 'Cause
We have two
they
main
would-
characters.
They would not leave that cliffhanger with B-15 and Mobius and not go back to it of them trying to destroy the TVA with however they want to do that.
Yes.
Like, all right, so we didn't even talk about the opening credits of like a callback to all this different audio.
Yes.
Time is 200 meters off. We think of time as a
Get the music in the background.
Yeah.
Oh,
All
And then
of that.
just going through time and space and ending, on that rock and in his castle. Like,
I need to go back and like deep dive into each sound clip to see if there's something.
yeah, there were a couple things I didn't really
Mm-hmm.
that just kind of went over my head. So,
All right, so
Rodney,
yes. So definitely my favorite was when Miss Minutes just shows up.
that's
She
fair.
just and not just shows up, but shows up creepy. Like
yeah,
she
straight
was
up.
straight creepy.
She definitely has a mind of
The
her
way
own.
they moved her eyes and like she was nervous and that's the thing. So like I want to go back and hit on this point before we move forward in any way, shape, or form from the series at all, because we just watched WandaVision. We didn't do a review on WandaVision. We kind of got started a little bit late, but we talked about WandaVision and the humanity piece for her series was grief, right? And we've hit on it a couple of times as we're reviewing the Loki episode. And in the Loki series, we're dealing with loneliness. And so when we talk about human elements to it, these series have given us some human elements that they focus on in as we wrap up every season of the series. When you talk about Captain America, Winter Soldier, or Falcon and Winter Soldier, whichever one you want to call it, we talked about belonging in that one. That one's more of belonging and coming into yourself, acceptance, coming into yourself, self-realization, those pieces. And really every single one of them has hit on a human element of not just a super being, but the humanity of that super being. In Falcon's case, he's still obviously human, but he's a hero. And so I really enjoy those pieces because they hammer it every time. What do these characters deal with in this super sense now that they're superheroes, with something like loneliness, with something like grief? Because when they experience it, it's in this grandiose kind of way, but it's still similar to what we as normal human beings would deal with. So anyways, I really wanted to hit on that point because it just made me happy. I was like, oh
Just
look,
talk about
they
how,
keep
like,
hitting it. They keep hitting it.
Marvel's just straight up knocking it out of the park.
They are. They so
Sorry,
are.
DC. Like,
I know.
Well done, Marvel. Well done.
So moving into theories, because there are a ton. I mean, when you wrap up a series like this, that just leaves it up to chance for everything to go down. And then you have someone like, the writer of Ant-Man 3, Quantumania, having Venom dunking on Spider-Man. Really, anything's possible. So,
And not to mention the whole Deadpool and
Korg.
Any tips on getting into the MCU there, Korg?
Have a dream, chase it, lose that dream, just sabotage all sorts of happiness in the pursuit of that dream, climb up to the peaks of that mountain, and when you get to the top, land at the bottom and realize you're never going to achieve that dream. And at that point, check your emails. Maybe you'll get something from your agent saying, Marvel wants to talk.
I think me and Rodney kind of laughed it off when you were talking about, or giving you a hard time about what if not being connected. According to Tom Hiddleston, what if will have some effect to the MCU? Which is,
it's really kind of...
this show makes more sense now after
Right.
the episode.
It's kind of, is this actually looking into some of the things that set up future elements now? It's just kind of just, it's like a chance for a little backstory before they just dive into something.
Honestly, I have no theories.
Well, because at this
I got
point,
plenty.
anything's possible. So, like, any theory could likely be some event in some timeline in some alternate reality somewhere. It just, it's a hot mess. It's a hot mess.
I want my
Sylvie,
3 Spider-Man. I need my 3 Spider-Man.
Lady Loki made a bad decision. We're just gonna leave it at that. For season 2, my theory is that we explore the path that they've chosen.
Yeah.
And Loki really didn't choose because Sylvie threw him in that timeline, that reality. But he chose not to act, to listen to Immortus. And I think we explore what the repercussions of their 2 decisions are. Really, ultimately, Sylvie's decision, but we explore how they're going to react in those 2 different worlds. And maybe some reconciliation at the end. And by the end, I mean realizing maybe her decision was wrong, but then still having to deal with it. And so, because I don't think that when she falls to the ground, she realizes it's finished, but her end product didn't give her the satisfaction she wanted. It ultimately just created more chaos. And so I think we explore that.
Well,
it's obvious, but that's just there's nothing
she is a god of
witty you
mischief.
can think of because anything's up for grabs.
That's what I'm saying.
right now.
I literally have nothing just because.
And I'm really nervous because we've been very quiet on the Spider-Man front. We've been very quiet on the multiverse of madness front. All of those pieces have been very quiet when really we should be getting marketing, promotional material out.
But see,
And so
I'm
are they
okay with
intentionally waiting for this to pan out?
Yeah.
Because this has an impact?
Yeah.
Oh, and that's what I'm nervous about, right?
Why?
And I just...
I'm not nervous. I'm excited to see how they use it. Because I do believe that is a reasoning behind, from a marketing perspective, because that's what I do. I fully understand that angle. And let the dust settle. Everybody's excited. They're going to go watch the movie anyways.
Okay.
So why not hold back?
Yeah, and this is something that I text y'all earlier in the week.
Mm-hmm.
I would not, well, I would be surprised if they did it, but I actually would not mind if there was no trailer whatsoever for Spider-Man.
I'll be
because
okay with that
there's
too.
so much hype for this movie that
Mhm.
I don't think it really matters. Like when we get the trailer, you're not gonna see Andrew or Toby. Like
No.
if they are in this movie, they're not gonna show it. I'm hoping they're in this movie, but I'll be so mad if they are in this movie and they show it in the trailer. I'll be so pissed.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So-
You
I mean,
want,
like, they're-
you want that to be
the
a
only thing
movie
you
experience.
can-
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing you can do is teaser. You can't do an in-depth
Yeah.
trailer.
If you want to do just one teaser and it's
Yeah.
like 30 seconds
I
long,
mean, think
good.
about it. That's what they
I'm
did
seeing
with.
it anyway.
That's what they did with that Star Wars
Yeah.
episode,
Yeah.
where it was just like, hey, we're gonna release this, and then it was like 6 to 8 months later before anything else was released.
Yes.
But I'll be interested to see how it all starts to come together. I think What If, as much as I was originally thinking that was just kind of a standalone, more and more things are pointing towards that being a setup for something.
Yeah.
Or at least to give us some backstory to help us understand the multiverse a little bit more before they just start.
I hope they
opening a
keep
can
it
that's just
separate.
crazy.
I hope it's just something fun that they can say, hey, yes, the Loki series opened up the multiverse. Here are the different things that could have happened in different timelines for different characters. Peter Parker as, Venom. You got, what is his name? Black Panther as a Ravager.
A Ravager never flies solo. I said never flies solo.
Hopefully they just keep that separate. Because there's no way you can connect all timelines, all
No,
realities,
no,
and
no.
try to make them all fit.
Although it
some
would
way,
be
shape, or form.
interesting that if that were the case, using animation to
Mhm.
continue this story of like real life, like human beings acting.
Mhm.
That's interesting to me.
Yeah. No, I will say one thing. This is not a theory by any means. This is just something that I would find very comical. Now that we have the multiverse, Fantastic Four is coming. There's all this stuff coming on. Look, all I'm saying is that I would
Too
find it.
early.
Hold on. All I'm saying is that I would find it very comical if Captain America met.
Firestorm.
Yes.
Or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna end it on that.
Be stretching.
I am. Look, I'm excited about the multiverse and all the funny moments that we can have come up.
So, guys, we just reviewed the finale, which we feel a little saddened about because we don't get
A
another
little.
episode. And our brains are a little mush.
Yeah.
So please
little.
excuse the randomness that was this episode.
Yeah.
But we had a ton of fun watching this season. So if you guys like what you're seeing, leave us a like. And also, as always, subscribe. Take care of each other. Peace.